You ready? Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Mayor Beverly H. Burks, and this is the City Council work session for Tuesday, April 29th, 2025, 7 p.m. I would like now to do roll call, starting with Vice Mayor Johnson,
Present.
Councilman Carroll,
Present.
Councilwoman Adi,
Present.
Councilwoman Hood.
Present.
Councilwoman Bell is out of town, and she will not attend. Uh, Councilman Perkins.
Present.
And I'd like to recognize our city manager, Shaquia Miller Thornton. Okay, are, are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I didn't get it, but I would like to add to the agenda a discussion to go over our insurance with Georgia Interlock Risk Management Agency.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to discuss our insurance with Georgia Interlocal Risk Management Agency. Okay, are you ready for the question? All in favor of adding as item G to new business, a discussion over our insurance with Georgia Interlocal Risk Management Agency, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion has passed. We'll now proceed to public comments. Any member of the public may address questions or comments to the city council referencing only agenda items after the mayor and council have had the opportunity to discuss the agenda item. Each attendee will be allowed 3 minutes for comments. We will now move into presentations, starting with A, to discuss a proclamation designating May as Asian American and Pacific Island Heritage Month with our equity officer, Yolanda McGee.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and City Manager. So we're going to start with the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. The rich history and heritage of Asian Americans and Pacific Islander is thousands of years old and is integral to the shaping of the history of the United States. Formerly known as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, the celebration was officially renamed Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in 2009. The month-long observance recognizes the influence and contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islander Americans to the achievements and culture of the United States. In the 1970s, a former congressional staffer, Jeannie Jew, proposed the idea of celebrating Asian Pacific Americans to Representative Frank Horton. In June 1977, a United States House of Representatives resolution was introduced by Horton and Norman Y. Mieta, proclaiming the first 10 days of May as Asian Pacific Heritage Week. A month later, a similar bill was introduced into the Senate. President Jimmy Carter made the then week-long celebration official when he signed a joint resolution on October 5th, 1978. In 1990, Asian Pacific Heritage Week was extended to a month when George H.W. Bush signed a bill passed by Congress designating May as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month.
Okay, and we have the proclamation to correspond with that activity. We've done this in the past. Council, is there any discussion? None? Community, is there any discussion? Can we have this as consent? Okay, consent. All right, we'll move on to B, which is to discuss a proclamation designating May as Jewish American Heritage Month. Ms. McGee?
Jewish American Heritage Month began in 2006 after a motion from the Jewish Museum of Florida and the South Florida Jewish community. President George W. Bush, Senator Arlene Specter, and Representative Debbie Weissman Schultz drove the movement into action after persisting urging from the community, declaring from the White House in April 2006 that Jewish American Heritage Month would take place in May. May was chosen as the celebration month after a successful and inspiring celebration in 2004. The Commission for Commemorating 350 Years of American Jewish History organized the celebration that year to honor the long history of Jewish culture in the United States. In the present, May is often seen as a time to celebrate, educate, learn about, and honor Jewish individuals, cultures, and communities. Since its inception, Congress instituted a resolution that asks future presidents to issue a proclamation suggesting that the people and governments of the U.S. observe the celebration to celebrate the holiday with ceremonies and activities related to American Jewish heritage to recognize, honor, and celebrate them. In 2021, President Joe Biden released a proclamation on the essentials aspects of this event and why it matters.
And the proclamation is included for that as well. Any comments from the council? Any comments from the public? Consent? Okay, all right, that's consent. Thank you, Ms. McKee.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item C, which is a presentation by benefits broker Alliant Insurance Services, Inc. on employee benefits with Dr. Baker.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, City Manager. So back in January of this year, the city did a bid for an employee benefit consulting broker services. And I have with us tonight Ms. Tammy Starkey, who is the selected firm. She's with Alliant Insurance Services, and she's going to share a little bit about the company, the services that we offer to the city as it relates to our employee benefits.
Good evening. My name is Tammy Starkey. I'm Senior Vice President with Alliant Insurance. What our team does is provide benefit administration service and consulting for public entities across the state of Georgia. So you'll see on the first slide of the presentation, just a little bit about Alliant. My team has been working with public sector clients across the state for the last 20 years. So cities, counties, public school systems, and ensuring that you're able to offer the best benefits to your employees at an affordable cost. So with that, we are the 5th largest insurance broker in the country, but unique in how we're able to focus our solutions for our public entity clients. The next slide shows some examples of that, of the solutions that we have dedicated to city and county governments. We understand what's important to your population, that the benefits you offer are a huge piece of how you're able to recruit and retain your employees. And so it's really important that they understand the value of the benefits that you offer, that they understand how to use them so that they see the value out of them, that you're able to offer wellness solutions to encourage the health of the population across a multi-generational group of employees. And then we partner with groups like Sourcewell, which the city is a part of, for purchasing arrangements where the city is able to access improved contracts for different benefits like life insurance, disability insurance. They're pulling those contracts on a larger level nationally with other city and county governments so that you're able to access improved rates on those benefits and enhance service and contracts. As we start out working with your team here at the city, we'll develop a strategy for your benefits program. What's important to you all, what's important to your employees, as we develop in the next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, what you want your benefit program to look like, and that we're meeting the needs of different employees and their families. As a part of that, we're going to manage the marketing and procurement process for you all. So with that, we'll develop the request for proposal for the different benefit products. We'll compare those to what you have now through the GMA benefits. And we're not just going to come back and look at the lowest rate on the page. We're going to look at the plan design, the benefits to employees, any disruption that would occur with employees, the providers that they can access, and the discounts that they can receive from those benefits. So we'll partner with the city in that and identifying the best carriers and vendors to provide your benefit programs, negotiating those contracts, and helping to manage those vendor relationships. look at enhancing your benefit package through voluntary benefits. So these can be budget neutral to the city, but really offer a lot of value to employees for the things that are important to them. So we'll look at specific policies like critical illness, which can cover if them or their family member had a heart attack, had cancer, renal failure. It'll pay an additional benefit that'll help cover the cost of their medical care and also if they're out of work due to that medical care. Things like accident, mental well-being, family planning. So meeting employees where their needs are and really enhancing the benefit program that you're able to offer them. We'll also work on a communication strategy with the city team. Again, so that employees understand the value of the benefits that you're offering, providing them with printed guides so that they're able to compare their benefit choices, providing on-site education and counseling, so that they're able to ask the questions that are specific to them to understand what benefit choices are going to work for them and how to correctly utilize them. We'll also provide a benefit advocate team that's going to be available to answer any questions from your employees or from their dependents. So often we'll get a question of, you know, I have to have this surgery. How's that going to be covered? What am I going to have to pay for it? What providers are going to be covered by my health insurance? And so that's where our team acts as an extension of your HR team to provide that advocacy. It's staffed by licensed insurance agents that are there dedicated to help your employees navigate their insurance benefits. A lot of the questions we'll get is, I got this bill, why didn't my insurance pay this? And so we'll work with the employee on their behalf with their insurance provider and with their doctor to make sure it's paid appropriately and explain to them how the coverage works and that is covered in the full amount that it should be. We'll also provide full service benefit administration. So we'll roll out an online enrollment platform where employees can make their elections in their benefit coverages. So they'll be able to see all options, enroll online as a new hire in with open enrollment. And then the city team will also be able to see that information real time. Who enrolled, who hasn't enrolled. We need to follow up with new hires or follow up during open enrollment to make sure everyone receives their benefit coverage in a timely manner, and that it's communicated electronically to the insurance carrier so that it stays consistent and without any error.
The button.
No. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
We needed it more for recording.
No, it's on. So that's really a summary of what we look to provide you all is creating a benefit strategy, enhancing the employee experience, and enhancing your overall benefit package that you're able to offer to your employees and their dependents.
All right. Council, Dr. Baker, did you have any additional comments?
I was just gonna say this was for council's awareness. This is
Okay.
within the city manager's threshold spending limit, so
Okay.
she has the authority to approve.
Okay.
Thank you all.
right. Okay. Thank you. All right. With that, we'll move on to item D, which is presentation by Collaborative Infrastructure Services, Inc. on the March 2025 Waterway Cleanup Event. Mr. Kaiser.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council, Ms. City Manager. Colton Wheeler with my firm is here this evening to talk about the waterway event. We've done this for, I think this is the 5th or 6th, 5 years, 5
Mhm.
years. And so he's here to make a presentation.
Hello, y'all.
We can hear you. There you go.
So yeah, this is just a presentation basically to say thank you to the city of Clarkston for allowing us to do this waterway cleanup. This is a necessity to do for our MS4 permit every year, sponsored by DeKalb County and Keep DeKalb Beautiful. So again, presentation. So yeah, so this is a great event for the community involving, you know, volunteer time and resources, and it's a worthy cause. Again, like we talked about, this is a requirement for the MS4 permit. Every year we host one. This is our 5th year hosting it. Since 2020, the amount of volunteers we've had is 250. The total avoided trash collected in Friendship Forest Park has been 6,500 pounds, and there's been over 7 miles of river that's been cleaned. And then we do disperse promotional material to over 60 locations, local schools, businesses, churches. And we've installed 4 large banners and again, over 80 flyers to the businesses to keep everybody aware of trying to keep the water clean and trash out of all the areas. So the number of volunteers this last cleanup we did was 35. It's about 140 hours of volunteer time, 15 bags of trash, 4 tires, mattresses, 250 pounds of trash and debris total. The promotion material cost $700, and that was for the 4 banners and the flyers and everything. And then the refreshments cost around $160, and that's where we bought donuts and coffee and everything else for the volunteers at the time. And here are some pictures. Yeah, you see the kids getting involved and citizens in the community. It's a great time. There's more of them. There's our city manager and our mayor putting on the don't throw waste into our storm drains. So we thank you for doing that each year, and we appreciate it. And there's just more pictures of all the trash we collected. And there's our sign. So that's one of our promotional signs that we installed around the city. And just, yeah, a big thank you to all you guys, to the city, to everybody for allowing this to happen, to all the volunteers, to the Public Works Department, Marcus and all of his crew. Again, keep the cab beautiful. And all businesses that help promote the event by letting us put their flyers out on the window and everything. And another special shout out to
Latanja.
Sorry, I don't want to mess that up. Latanja for all her promotional content.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you again. We look forward to it every year. We'll move on to the next item, which is to discuss the findings of the survey conducted with businesses affected by the city of Clarkston holding events in downtown Clarkston. And that is Miller Thornton, but Jacob.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council and City Manager. I'll be giving a hopefully short presentation today in regards to the business impact survey that was conducted in downtown Clarkston, essentially analyzing the impact of city events. Should it presentation? Okay. I'll just start off by giving a list of different businesses that were interviewed here in the city of Clarkston. Primarily, it was all businesses in our downtown central business district area. There was roughly 20 businesses that were interviewed, but I will move forward with some disclaimers that will attend to that. This following presentation contains the results of the business impact survey that was conducted in the downtown area on March 6th through 7th. This survey was conducted in person, engaging with business owners, store managers, or employees with a minimum of 5 years of experience at that location. It is also important to note not all businesses were able or willing to participate. Some declined due to language barriers or a preference for direct engagement with business owners. As a result, these findings presented here reflect feedback from businesses that were both available and open to sharing their insights at the time of the survey. This information that was gathered is intended to provide a general perspective on business impacts within the area, but it should not be interpreted as a full comprehensive representation data set of all businesses in downtown Clarkston. The reason that this matters is because downtown businesses are the heart of Clarkston's economy, and these recent survey findings reveal significant disruptions caused by city events, specifically impacting customer access, parking, and overall foot traffic. By relocating events, we can ensure continued economic activity while still fostering community engagement. Now, this part may be a little tricky because there's a lot of different data sets that I would like to show each of you, but I'll just read off some of the numbers that are associated with each slide. In the survey, there was roughly 14 questions that were given to the business owners. One of the first ones was, what type of business do you operate in downtown Clarkston? Out of this finding, we saw that there was 13 retail that participated, 6 were restaurants, and 2 that fell into the other category. Following that, we asked the business owners how many years they have been operating in downtown Clarkston to have an understanding of their relationship and actual view of the impact of businesses that were happening in Clarkston. Out of the businesses that we interviewed, over 14 of them have been operating in downtown Clarkston for at least 8 years or more, while the rest have been here for more than a year to 3 or 4 to 7. We also asked the business owners, what are your operation hours? What are your peak hours? When are you busiest? When are you not the busiest? To have a better understanding of when these disruptions were actually happening. And there were 4 choices that the business owners could pick from. The first one was the morning time, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Second, midday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Afternoon, 2 to 5, and evening, 5 to 9. This in particular shows that the afternoon time, 2 to 5 p.m., was the most active in our downtown area, but following those is the evening time, 5 to 9. A lot of business owners did give feedback and say that building up, so around 10 a.m., 9 a.m., leading into lunchtime, they're starting to see more foot traffic come into their business, and that's typically when city events will happen in downtown Clarkston. Following that, we wanted to know what are their busiest work days. Of course, they got a selection of all 7 days of the week. And Sunday, Friday, and Saturday were seen as to be the most engaging and busiest days here in Clarkston. Even through these face-to-face engagements, when we were speaking to business owners, they said that, Monday through Thursday, even Monday through Friday, our residents are out at their jobs, they're working. So they see the majority of their foot traffic available on the weekends when they're spending doing retail, eating at restaurants. The majority of this happens typically on the same days that we would host city events in downtown Clarkston. More specifically, Saturday came in at the #1 most busiest day for our business owners here in Clarkston. And that is also another day that city events typically happen in the downtown area. Following that, we asked the question, how do downtown events impact your daily operations? The business owners or store managers had the options of picking from increasing customer traffic sales that they noticed no impact at all, or a decrease in traffic and sales. We come to find out that the majority of the business owners believe that they see a decrease in customer traffic and sales. 6 of them saw no noticeable impact, and 4 of them declared that they see an increase in traffic and sales. I thought this slide was pretty special, looking at the difference of where these results came from. Although they were gathered in the overall downtown area, the Clarkston market area on the other side of Market Street, they seem to be more in favor of the city events happening in downtown Clarkston due to some higher more noticeable foot traffic to that specific area. Following that question, we wanted to know about adjustment details. So we asked the question, have you ever had to close or adjust your store hours due to a downtown event? 4 of the businesses said, yes, occasionally we have, but 16 said no, they had never had to. When engaging with the ones that said yes, they had to adjust their hours, we wanted to have a more specification as to how did you have to adjust. Are you extending your hours due to people being here? Are you having to start later due to congestion and things of that nature? These business owners said that they have no parking access for their employees, for people to get in and out, so it affects their times to start. And then others say that we're actually pushing for their customers to go into other competitive markets. So if our retail stores are not accessible on Market Street, they would leave and maybe go to Stone Mountain or some other city to do shopping. The next question we ask the business owners is, what challenges do downtown events present to your business? These were the options they had to pick from. Loss of parking, which came in a vote of 12. Reduced foot traffic, which came in at a 9. Increased congestion, which came in at a 14. Noise disruptions, which came in at a 1. And no challenges, and they actually supported the events at 4. Following that question, we wanted to understand our communication efforts. We asked business owners and store managers, do you feel as if the city communicates with your business well in advance about events? And 15 of them said that we do an excellent job at communicating with them, while others did not believe so. But during that time, we also learned that some of our business owners actually get our events confused with other local events that happen in downtown Clarkston. And so they believe that, some of our events are actually not, in relation to how they feel. We learned that some of them have had complications with other business owners that they could get confused with actually them being city events, but we had to clarify what is and what is not. Following that, we asked the question, if downtown events were moved to a nearby location, for example, Milam Park, how would it affect your business? 10 of them said it would have a positive impact. 8 of them said no impact at all, and 1 voted negatively. And with this information, I would like to say that we are still doing an additional study of more forthcoming data that covers the overall feeling of current events here in Clarkston. So we recently launched the Community Events and Engagement Survey, which is also here today, and I encourage everyone to get it, to better understand how residents experience our events. As our population continues to grow and diversify, it is important that our programming reflects the full range of community interests and needs. This survey allows us to collect meaningful data that will shape future planning, increase participation, and ensure that every resident feels represented and included in our events. So what are we asking? What do residents enjoy? What are their barriers to participation? And what type of events that they would like to see? In addition to those questions, staff is also focusing on the measurement of satisfaction, identity barriers, understanding different preferences, evaluating multiple locations, improving communications, and to inform future planning. While the survey data supports relocating select events to Milam Park, it is not the intent to move all community events away from downtown Clarkston. We recognize the importance of continuing to activate the downtown core and support local businesses. Our goal is to implement a more strategic, business-conscious approach to how and when events are held downtown. In evaluating alternative locations within the downtown area, we did come across several concerns. For example, limited visibility. Certain sites lacked adequate public visibility and presence for community engagement, insufficient parking options, vendor accessibility, and even space constraints. As such, Milam Park is being considered as a complementary location, offering flexibility and relief where needed, while still preserving the vibrancy and identity of our downtown. Milam Park is well equipped with low disruption. Milam Park offers a well-equipped and low disruption alternative for hosting community events with built-in amenities that enhance visitor experience while preserving businesses in downtown. For example, expanded parking capacity. It's ADA compliant and accessible for all people. It's flexible and has open space, permanent restroom facilities, sheltered event infrastructure that will provide picnic areas, seamless vendor setups, and shaded seating for our residents. It's a family-oriented recreation area. It has playgrounds, athletic fields, which naturally attract families, existing and updated security surveillance, and zero commercial disruptions as well. Concluding, the data speaks clearly. While events are important to community life, the economic strain on downtown businesses is currently undeniable. Milan Park offers a vibrant, community-ready space that can host events with fewer negative effects on local commerce. We recommend relocating events to Milan Park as a strategic move to support economic vitality while still engaging with the public. And that's all I have for today.
Okay, thank you. Council, at this time, do you have any questions?
Can you send us a copy of the presentation? I'm
I'm
assuming it
happy.
was
It was just emailed to us.
just emailed to
Yeah,
us.
it was just
Mhm.
emailed to us.
I have a question.
Yes.
With this data, are you looking for us to give you direction to move to Milam Park or?
That is a great question. We wanted to present the idea because we understand that there has been economic strain that has happened in downtown Clarkston due to some city events. And so we're asking for, I guess you can say, guidance for us to strategically move forward with better planning.
Did you have a question?
Mayor.
I guess my concern is that not all events that happen are city events based on just what you just said to us. And
Mhm.
so I think there's that commingling of associating certain events to be city events, and they're not city events. And based on what we've seen with other events that have occurred in Milan Park, we've not gotten that foot traffic because of that. And plus, when you look at the number of parking spaces in the actual park, even taking into account with the parking spaces that are up at the East Avenue Popular area, the balance is not there. So when you're making this recommendation, are there other recommendations to also include, I didn't hear the Clarkston Community Center or somewhere else to host an event based on that? Because again, we've had events at Milam. One of the issues that people had is that there wasn't anywhere to park. So if you put on top of the vendors, if you look at the people coming, that's one of those issues. So as you were making that recommendation, what was that consideration? How did you have data to back up that by transferring it to Milam Park that we would be able to do that?
That's a great question. So there is currently no data to back that up, but staff has been in conversation of additional partnerships with other local organizations in Clarkston to provide parking that is near Milam Park. We've identified a couple other solutions that that would align just with that. So currently, no, there is no data, but staff is still in conversation for additional solutions.
Okay, that's the only, because the closest parking from Milam Park would be Clarkston First Baptist.
Mhm.
And then
Jolly
only
Elementary.
Jolly Elementary,
Mhm.
and that's still a walk.
Mhm.
And then if you look the other direction, it would be the community center.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to thank you first for gathering the data to provide some perspectives, and especially for our businesses. So definitely appreciate that. But again, given where we've had crowd participation and other things, I think that's another piece that needs to be factored in from a historic perspective about that. So thank you for that. Councilman Carroll.
One thought I had is that if we do the events right, I think it could drive more foot traffic to the businesses. A lot of people come to downtown. So maybe more of thinking about how do we shape these events so they're beneficial for our businesses, and maybe not always bring like catering from outside Clarkston, but just maybe use like Clarkston businesses or things like that that might make it more beneficial for them to have city events. Because I do think there's some benefit to showing the downtown to people that may come to the events.
Councilwoman,
I'll
Councilwoman
defer.
Hood, and then
Mhm.
City Manager Miller Thornton.
Yes, excellent presentation. Thank you for providing this detailed information. I think Jamie makes a good point. There's a value to having events down in our downtown. And so I think dealing, if we're not going to move all events, which I don't think anybody cares to, then how to handle some of the negative impacts, such as the parking, and how to encourage people who come to go to the businesses that are already there. And I don't know the extent of that. I think the issue of there's competition between certain businesses that have a footprint in downtown and the vendors that we bring in. So that's something that I think could be looked at. And then relative to Milam Park, although parking is still an issue, there may be issues because instead of it being in a downtown area, it's going to be closer to a residential area. And things like noise and people parking illegally and maybe trash getting into people's front yards, that sort of thing. So both of them have their benefits and their drawbacks. And if we're going to have two different places where we have events, then focusing on the difference between them and how to make those differences have a minimal impact on the community.
And then City Manager Miller Thornton.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to say that we are conscious, of the fact that there is a benefit of having events in your downtown corridor, so to speak, specifically with the amount of traffic that we get on Church and East Ponce, right? Having that visibility there. We also understand that some of our events are better suited for a place outside of the downtown, the way the downtown is structured. We did take a look at pool opening and the book bag giveaway and the amount of traffic that comes to those events that are held at Milam Park, right? And you get a good number of participants in those events. So specifically, in planning for the Juneteenth event, we were looking at which space would better serve a specific kind of event, right? June is hot. It is, we're planning for a large vendor selection. We are planning to have a lot of different activities. The space at Milam Park allows for safety of play for the children and the families that come. We're not on the asphalt, which can protrude a higher level of temperature when you're out in midday in June. And so we looked at a lot of different factors. The intent of the survey was not to move all of our events from the downtown area, but to determine which events would be better served in a different space.
And
Vice
if
Mayor.
I may, to your point, we have moved Juneteenth to Milam Park.
Mhm.
And with the exception of the volunteers and the staff that attended, that was pretty much it.
Okay.
So in this community, 80% of the people that come to Milam, they're not parking, they're walking.
Mhm.
I meant to mark, did I say market? I'm looking at it. It is market, right?
Market.
Right.
Mhm.
They're walking.
Mhm.
And to ask that same group of people to walk to Milam Park,
Mhm.
it's not gonna happen. So
Mhm.
we've tried it, but we don't get the same turnout.
Mhm.
Some events are good for Milam Park,
Mhm.
but for the most part, we're moving out of the city. When I say we're moving out of the city, we're moving out of the middle of the city.
Mhm.
So the more events we have in the heart of the city, the more we remind them that we are still here and we're still a walk community.
Mhm.
So I think that I love the survey. I think you did a great job. And I do need to name some of those businesses that have issues because that's what we do.
Mhm.
All 6 of us.
Mhm.
So if you could just let us know which, with the taking Juneteenth completely off the table, but which ones you would like to redirect and let us see it. It may be doable because the book bag drive, I don't think it would be as successful anywhere else.
Right, that's all.
You know what I'm saying? But Juneteenth has just proven itself on Market Street.
Well, and unless you want to do it on Juneteenth to see if you can do it, I'll leave that to the city manager.
Yes.
But the numbers gotta show. So,
If you want department turnout, you gotta go downtown. It's
Gotcha.
just too far from,
Yeah.
Milam's too far from it. You don't need department turnout. Yeah, Milam, it works especially for high.
And Councilman Perkins.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. When when y'all were looking at the survey, one of the things that I didn't see in the data is looking at the hours. So I know, at least the participants in the survey, you've got quite a range. You have everything from daycare facility to a medical clinic to grocery stores to coffee shops to restaurants. And so I don't know how much of that kind of covered the type of services or type of goods that the different businesses were providing. But I think you're asking for some strategic guidance, I think, from us, if I heard you right. And I think one thing, even to the point on Juneteenth being at, the middle of the day in the heat, I think I died that day with how hot it was. I'm
We all
not
did.
sure yet, but I think we all may have lost, but it might be something that we could also look at adjusting the hours of
Mhm.
events based on the type of the event, the intended, book bag drive obviously is a different population and, a food festival or something like that. And so I think making some adjustments based on the locations, we've done that with our food drive too. We try to move that around depending on, need and availability, but also to make sure that it's accessible to folks in the community. So that'd be one recommendation I'd have, is to kind of go back, look at the list of feedback, and even people who didn't give you feedback, look at if you haven't already, look at the hours that their businesses are open, the type of services they're providing. And if it's a medical clinic, I doubt they're going to be doing something in the evening. That may not be their peak time, or maybe it is. I think the point, you'll get my point on this. But you could, one of the things you could do is look at trying to minimize disruption that way. Additionally, for the businesses that are open, maybe their peak hours or during the time of the event, I think we could do a better job of, and I think y'all are laying the groundwork for this, building the capacity of our businesses to be able to take advantage of events that drive foot traffic into town. Things like that. I know that we have a couple businesses downtown that have tried that. I don't know if it's been successful or not. They were criticized for it and kind of bring big events in. They started doing a better job of trying to promote some of their neighbors as well. That might be a good starting point to say what's going well with that, what's not going well. But just a couple of ideas there.
Thank you.
Any other comments, Councilwoman Hood?
Yes, to follow up on what Councilmember Perkins said. We've got restaurants in downtown and others that serve food, and we bring in vendors. So is there some way that we can give those businesses that do provide food an opportunity to participate in the sales of food or whatever it is?
Okay, go ahead.
I think that's absolutely great. That's another thing that I wanted to mention as well, that in the past, we have gone to our businesses in downtown Clarkston to see if they would like to engage in downtown events. But given the types of businesses that are there, tire shops, you have a coffee shop that can't participate, barber shops, for example, little retail. What's currently in our downtown area, yes, there are some areas for people to shop and some to visit, but that's also extremely limited. With that being said, that engagement portion of inviting business owners out to participate and have a space to sell and vend in Clarkston, that engagement between the business owners has not gone well. So.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you again for providing that information, and we hope that you kind of listen to some of the suggestions that we have to make sure ultimately how you determine the upcoming activities, not just Juneteenth, but all the other activities that we have, and also making sure that other businesses that host events, that some of the things that you're thinking about, that you also kind of collaborate with them to make sure that as they're doing their business, their events, that we factor that in as well, because we want to make sure that we're collaboration. That's the most important people, and we're important thing that we're partners across the board, whether it's a city-run event or another business activity.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right,
Could
thank
also
you.
do some tire change events, and we haven't done those yet.
Community, do we have any comments? Any comments? No comments. Okay, thank you again for that survey. We'll move on to the next item, which is old business, and that is to discuss requiring the city to have an option to receive all payments electronically and to have an option to make all payments electronically by July 1st, 2025. And this is a follow-up, Councilman Carroll.
Yeah, so since this was put on, I've talked to the new city manager. I think we've reached agreement that January 1st, 2026 is going to be an appropriate date for this. And the reason why is because that starts the new fiscal year. So that the new software will hopefully be online by then. They start the new fiscal year, and that's when they can start inputting and exporting all payments, at least have an option to do so electronically. So I'd like to amend it to require it to be done by January 1st, 2026.
And city manager, would you like to comment at this time? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, very good. So you
Thank
want
you.
to amend this to say January 2026?
January 1st, 2026.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Hopefully that can be consent. Unless somebody really loves paper checks.
Yes. Take, cut your,
Right now, it says the option to receive all payments. Are we letting her be selective in her choosing? Or-
There has to at least be the option for, like, if somebody wants to make a payment to the city electronically, they need to have the ability to do that.
But are we still gonna say all payments? All
She's
the-
Well, it's an option to receive all payments. So
Or
it's not that they have to receive all payments electronically. The person that's making the payment has the option to make them electronic.
I think it's more so taking
Yeah,
that word
all.
all out.
Well, I think all, because basically my understanding is the software is going to cover all the departments. So right now, departments have different payment systems, right? The court has a different payment system than permitting, which has a different payment system than, for example, Works. And what the point is that you're going to have one electronic software that covers all the departments. And all the departments will have the option to send and receive payments under this new software. And so all payments can be made electronically once that new software is made, not that they have to be. So it's just an option for the person who's making the payment to decide whether they want to pay it by check or by cash, or if they want to pay it electronically. And the point is, since they're all under the same system, they'll have the option to do it electronically. So it's the option of the person making the payment to say, I do want to do it electronically, that they'd be able to do. If they don't want to do it electronically, that's fine. They can still do it by check the way they did it before. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I remember that the courts brought up some concerns about having electronic payments. for
Right.
Certain.
And the courts already have electronic payments as an option. So this wouldn't really change things for them, except to understand they're going to be under the new system with the
Okay.
rest of the city.
My suggestion is that we say receive payments electronically by January 1, 2026, based on operational or departmental protocol.
That's fine. You can say operational department protocol. I mean, that's how it would be
Yeah.
anyways.
All right, that sounds like a plan. So you have the update for that? Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any comments from the public? Hearing none. Is this something that can be consent? Yes. Yeah. That's Councilwoman Hood.
Thank you. Fees for these electronic payments. Have we discussed that? Is that too far into the weeds? I have a real problem with electronic payment fees.
Well, if they don't want to pay them, they can always pay by check.
Right.
Yeah, they can always opt out and pay by check if they want.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Can this be consent? Okay, so we'll make sure that the updated verbiage will be changed.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to new business, which is to discuss issuing the call for elections for the November 4th, 2025 general election. Clerk Mitchell.
Good evening. This is simply to call the November 4th City Council, Mayor and City Council election. This election will be to elect a mayor and 3 council members. The term of office is 4 years, and the elected officials will be sworn in at the January 2026 council meeting. This year, the county did make some revisions to the polling locations. So I do want to make sure everyone is aware that we will have 2 precincts as we always do, but instead of the Clarkston Community Center, we will have the Clarkston Library and also the Clarkston First Baptist Family Life Center. Also, the qualifying period for this election will be Monday, August 18th through Friday, August 22nd from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. with a 1-hour lunch break. I want to say it's around 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. This information will be published in our city's legal organ, the Champion newspaper, as well as our city website, and also posted in our City Hall Annex building.
Any questions on this? No? And so if we had to do any special elections, would that fit within the time frame? Will we, by the 15th, September 15th?
That would be something I would rather present to you all at a
Okay.
later time to give you additional information.
Okay, that's perfect. Any comments from the council? I mean, from the council? Any from the public? Okay, with that, that is more for information purposes. Thank you. We'll move on to item B, which is to discuss an ordinance to amend
Sorry,
chapter.
Madam Mayor, point of order. I think we may be on the same
Aye.
page. I think we actually need to move that. We have to vote.
We do
Mhm.
need to move it to consent.
We'll move this one to this, to consent. Okay? Are we good with consent?
Yes.
Okay, all right. We'll move to B, which is to discuss an ordinance to amend chapter 3 of the city code concerning alcohol to allow beer or malt beverage to contain up to 14% alcohol by volume. Clerk Mitchell.
Yes, back in 2004, the state of Georgia amended its regulations to increase the allowable alcohol by volume percentage for malt beverages from 6% to 14%. This change enabled a wide variety of craft beers to enter the market, better aligning the state laws with the evolving beer industry and shifting the consumer preferences. Staff did a review on the alcohol by volume limits for the surrounding jurisdictions and found that DeKalb County remains at 6%, while the following cities increased their limits to 14%. Those cities were Tucker, Avondale Estates, Stone Mountain, Brookhaven, and also Decatur. The City of Clarkston's Code of Ordinances currently defines beer or malt beverages as any alcoholic beverage obtained by the fermentation of an infused or decoction of barley, malt, hops, or other products, or any combination of such products and water containing not more than 6% by alcohol volume, and including ale, porter, brown, stout, lager beer, small beer, and strong beer. The term malt beverage does not include sake, known as Japanese rice wine. To remain consistent with the state regulations and the neighboring municipalities, staff recommends increasing the allowable alcohol by volume for beer and malt beverages from 6% to a maximum of 14%.
Okay. Any questions from the council? No? Okay. Any from the public? Anyone has consent?
Consent.
Consent? Okay, consent. We'll move on to C, which is to discuss the Georgia Department of Transportation 2025 Local Road Assistance Project Selection and Grant Applications submitted. Mr. Kaiser.
Good evening again. The city received funding in the amount of $137,876.46 back in about a month and a half, 2 months ago. There is no local match, just like last year when we received the LRA funds. So what I did was look at all of the resurfacing work, which is attached as Exhibit A. All that has been completed. We have completed most of the poor, fair to poor roads. Exhibit B shows the list of remaining roads to be resurfaced that have not been resurfaced for the past 14 years. So you have a new list to work off of, which is attachment A. There are a few remaining roads that are poor to fair. The reason I'm not recommending those is for a variety of reasons. One is because of, as an example, on East Avenue, there are some sanitary sewer issues, as Mr. Seaton knows. There are a few other roads that if we do the work now, it'll be basically torn out in the future. And so we have put those off to the side and address those later on once various things happen on those roads. So you have attached the list that I call Exhibit B. I have recommended out of Exhibit B, which is all the roads that have been resurfaced for the past 14 years are not included, as you see that notation. I recommended 6 roads to be resurfaced with LRA funds. DeBell Street from Market to North Indian Creek, Ridgeland Trail from McLaren to Cul-de-sac, Vaughn Street from Montreal to Market Street, Vaughn Street from Market Street to Hill Street, Mel Place from Mel Avenue to Dead End, and Casa Court from Casa Drive to Cul-de-sac. All the ones that are checked on the second page of the exhibit. It will cost more than $137,000. And so it's kind of hard to guess the exact amount. I have to at least hit that number. I'm estimating it's going to cost about 165, 170,000. So that difference will be paid out of SPLOST 2 resurfacing. I'll mention also under SPLOST 2 resurfacing, we're going to come in about $100,000 under our contract amount. So we're going to have some significant savings from that contract. So we can apply it towards this work for LRA. So those are my recommendations. But again, I have Exhibit B. If there are other roads that council would like to be considered, obviously let me know. And we can add those costs up. As long as they meet or exceed the $137,000, then we're good to go. But those are my recommendations based upon the condition of the road and basically from the condition of the road primarily.
Council, did you have any questions on this? Councilman Carroll?
If there's some action we need to take to select the particular roads or?
So yes, it's just like LMIG. By June 1st, I have to upload the list to the GDOT portal, just like I do for every year for LMIG. And so yes, a council has to make a decision on the roads. It has to be official. Sometime next month, I'll get the mayor and the city manager to sign the documents that have to be uploaded along with the road list. And all that has to be uploaded by June 1st.
So we basically have to either vote on it the next meeting or have a special call meeting.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to give it to you in advance, so you have some chance to look at the list that still has to be resurfaced.
Any questions? Councilwoman Hood?
Thank you. Did you say that you don't know what the shortfall will be, even considering the savings of 100,000 in our current SPLOST projects?
So we're going to come in under the allocation that I budgeted for in the second SPLOST program by about 100,000. And so obviously there's some additional SPLOST 2 monies that have to be done on this LRA program, but we'll just take it out of the savings that we will be experiencing under Magnum paving contract.
I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Whatever the difference
Yeah.
is.
But we're still going to come out on positive.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
we're still
you.
going to have a cost savings based upon my estimate in the SPLOST 2 program.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And so are we eligible for LMIG for next year?
Yes, yeah, we'll pursue it towards
Okay.
November, December timeframe. We haven't got the list yet, the funding or the notification or anything yet.
Okay.
That'd be LMIG 26. That'll be 26.
So for tonight, if you have identified these,
Mhm.
um, you do you or do you not have the cost for these?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. And then you need for us to give you any other additional?
Or subtractions or deletions. So I recommended 6
Mhm.
that will exceed the 137,000 by some dollar amount. And so those are my 6 recommendations based upon the condition of the pavement.
Okay. All right. So I guess council, with the ones that have been presented to us, DeBelle, Richland, Vaughn, Mel, and Casa, are you fine with those streets, or are there some other streets?
I'm fine.
Councilwoman Hood? Yes. Talking, press the green button.
Looking at the list, Poplar, Market to the parking lot,
Mhm.
pavement in fair to poor condition.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned that you didn't want to put East Avenue on there yet because of the problems, stormwater problems there. What are your thoughts on Poplar?
LMIG 2026. The reason is you have the two close together. They both have traffic calming devices on them. And it just makes sense to put those together next year.
All right, thank you.
So, Councilwoman, you good? Okay. Councilman Carroll?
Yeah, the only question I had is it looks like there's 5 streets listed here, but I think you said 6. Am I missing?
You have 2 pieces of on.
Okay, so 2 pieces of on.
Yeah, 2 sections. I broke it out just for purposes of discussion.
Councilman Perkins?
Yeah, I'm sure that was it. I mean, it looks pretty straightforward to me.
Okay.
I think, yeah, in terms of so there's no, I mean, this is sort of a use it or lose it in terms of the funding, right? Because there's no local match required.
0.
Yeah.
The only match, not matches, the only dollar amount is we go 137,000.
Yeah. And you don't have a,
We'll go over 137,000.
Okay.
Because I'm not that good.
Okay.
In terms of estimating bids to have the exact number.
yeah, my only hesitation would be just on Bond Street, if we had any kind of long-term plans for just that downtown area that would involve changing anything, but I don't see, I mean, we don't have anything scheduled
Bond
or
Street's in
anything.
awful condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So my only
I don't
concern,
see-
to
Go
your
ahead.
point, to Vaughn Street is how are we handling the dumpsters? But I just wanted to, because that's an issue before we start paving anything.
So, Richard. He's gone.
He left. He said no.
Saw you.
Saw it coming.
So Mr. Bates spoke with me last week and he indicated, and Richard would tell you this if he was here, he called me and then he called Richard. And he said that Waste Management required 2 additional parking spaces to be disappear for purposes of loading and unloading. So I said I didn't have an issue with that, but Richard would have to address it from a parking space standpoint. And I don't know where it led to. All I know, he's ready to do the work. I mean, he called me up, he says, I'm ready to go, but Waste Management just told me that we're gonna have to increase the area of disturbance for this project. By the time this starts, so Magnum Paving, we wanted them to have this as contract change order number 2, remember? They just texted me a few minutes ago, said they have no interest because they can't do it for the same unit prices. So I'm gonna put out the bid, unfortunately. So we have some time. We won't do Vaughn Street unless that is out of the way. Okay.
So my only concern as you're having that conversation is not the one that we've been talking about in terms of the dumpster. Is the dumpsters, the 2 that are currently located on the Vaughn that goes from Market Street to Montreal.
Yes.
So those 2, because again, they're on our right of way.
Yes, they are.
And so however that needs to be addressed, I think that's very important as we're investing in that be paving the area?
So the paving work the dumpsters that exist out there now are outside of the area of paving. Even the one that's close, like within a foot or two of the edge of pavement, won't affect the paving. And then the car auto resale business place is also 4, 5, 6 feet off the pavement. So it won't affect the pavement at all, the paving work. What I'm more worried about is all of the utility work that has been done on the Montreal side over and over and over again. They're tearing up the pavement. So I had to get with Water and Sewer, the Cab Watershed, and make sure that I ask the question, do you have any long range, short range, long range plans to cut out the asphalt again, and do any more work out there? Because, we've had problems forever at that intersection. So that's the only thing I have. The other side is a little clearer, but both sections need the resurfacing.
Okay, so we'll have you look at that piece. We can have it on the list, but if you, based on your conversations, if that needs to come off, just make sure to update the council. Is
I
that
will.
fine for everyone? Okay, all right, thank you. And so with this one,
Can we do consent for that,
we
or-
can do consent. We have that? Consent? Okay, we can keep going. All right, the next one is to discuss an ordinance. Oh, no, stormwater. To discuss an ordinance to amend Article 5 of Chapter 19 of the City Code concerning stormwater utility services to amend and clarify certain definitions to create subclasses for attached residential dwellings for the purpose of fairly assessing the stormwater utility service fee. Mr. Kaiser.
So we have as we discussed at the retreat, we have a outdated stormwater ordinance. We made a number of revisions to it, both Mr. Quinn and myself and Hope Laramie with ISE, marked up the ordinance quite a bit, updated a number of definitions and subclasses and stormwater credits and exemptions. And we just went through and just took a red pen to it and did all the updates. So what you have before you is the corrected, most recent, most updated stormwater ordinance that's available, as we discussed at the retreat. So staff is recommending moving forward with the revisions that I've attached.
Okay. And council, one of the other things we asked was to see what the variance looked like, and that's the
Excellent.
attached documents that you have to your side, so you can see where in terms of the apartments, the commercial, the detached residences, the attached residences, which are condos, and the attached residential, which are also townhomes.
May I go through these lists?
Yes. if you
Okay.
don't mind.
So in the order, unless you got them out of order, how I placed them on your desk was the order I'm going to go through today. So the spreadsheet, if I kept all the columns in place, it would spread from this wall to that wall. So I excluded a lot of columns that didn't really pertain to tonight's conversation. The cover sheet is what we talked about before, but I'm going to go over it with you one more time. So what I have excluded from this is the single-family residential, because there are no changes to that. What has changed primarily are the apartments, commercial, industrial, institutional parcels, and some minor changes to attached residential townhouses. So with that said, let me go to the first spreadsheet. Let's call it apartments. What I want to do is go to 4 or 5 columns just to give you a feel of how this all came about, so you have a good understanding of where the increases are. So let's just take the apartments. Let's go, as an example, let's go to the fourth one that says Peachtree Creek on Ponce. Okay, so the ERU for 2025, and ERU is equivalent residential unit for this project should be 206.9. One ERU is basically $63.96. Okay, so you see, you take that number and you multiply it by the $63.96, you get $13,233.32. You go over to what has actually been billed for that particular apartment complex, is basically $1,046. So the variance between the two is $8,890. So the increase is 848%. Again, the explanation again for this is that the calculations for impervious area were not calculated properly. And this is for everything since 2006. And so that is for the apartments. So the 2025 stormwater fee for apartments would be $298,000. See that number above the third column, the fourth column? That is what we will be receiving for stormwater fees for apartments. You go all the way across, what's being billed as of now is $124,000. So the difference is $164,000. That's the variance between the two. So that's apartments. Next one is other development. I just misspelled it, other development. I mean, really, that's really commercial and industrial kind of properties. And so let me make sure I get all the right things here together. All right. So let's go to stormwater fee, and let's go just pick one. Let's just pick, let's go to one of the first ones. So go all the way down to the right, you see the column of 1,800%. See the very last column? Go down, you see the number 1,800%. All right, so go all the way across, and that number pertains, that parcel pertains to vacant exempt land, Georgia State University. So before, in 2020, so before the revisions, they were charged $25.58. The proper charge is $486 for that piece of land owned by Georgia State. So that difference is, that variance results in a $1,800% increase. So what I did was I went from not applicable, where there's no changes on that last column, and you go all the way down and you see I began with the highest percentage and I went all the way down to the least percentage, all the way on page 5. So on page 5, that last column, you'll see where there was some charges that were overbilled. All right, and so pretty minor for the most part in terms of dollar amounts. The biggest difference is those parcels that should have been charged for the proper impervious area that was never charged before. And so you see what those increases are. So the question I think came from council at work session, at retreat, was obviously reaching out to those with a letter describing where we are and why we're doing this, and then have a public meeting, sit down with them, and also have the offer of meeting with them personally if they have a question about it. So those are the industrial properties. The next one is condos. So on condos, you see a percent change of negative. So really, there is no change there. There were very little change in all of that in the variance. Townhouses, the next sheet. So you see townhouses, the proper 2025 stormwater fee should be $13,916. What was charged in 2024 was $12,536. So there is a small variance of $1,380. Pretty minor for the most part. Quite a few non-applicables, and a few that were charged, which really amounts to very few dollars at all. So the largest, most significant increases occurred with apartments and with commercial and industrial properties. So those are the numbers. And I try to make it as simple as possible, going from high percentage to low. And I know, I think Councilwoman Hood, I think you mentioned something about trying to figure out who we actually reach out to personally, maybe, and have a conversation with them. That's pretty significant effort to reach out to every single one. I think them receiving a letter, inviting them to the meeting, personally, I think that's satisfactory enough, but I'll leave that up to the council to decide what to do.
I do have a concern, particularly when it comes to, and make sure I'm reading this right, over to left side is what we're going to charge them, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so I do have a concern, especially as I'm looking at this number, for example, for Plantation. Well, no, Plantation, the condominium associations, because that is a significant amount for them, as well as Creekstone, Tree Creek. While it's not a lot, it's still a lot for that community.
Are you, where are you looking?
Yeah. No, I'm just looking at that. That's just.
I'm looking at it.
Which one you looking at?
Vacant. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
vacant.
but that's the, yeah, no, I'm on first, but they're vacant. These are the ones that are vacant. How is that impacting them? Or is that no charge?
The
Or,
apartments, you mean, or?
yeah,
Well, if they're vacant, the owner, so the owner of that facility, that complex.
mhm.
So give me which one it is here. So which-
It's the
Number 4.
number 4, Plantation Condominium Association.
It's on the other developed.
On the
sheet.
other
Oh,
development.
I was looking
Sorry.
at apartments.
Yeah, no, other
Yeah, I-
development, sorry.
all right, Plantation. Okay, there it is. Condominium Association. Yeah. So the question is,
So we're gonna charge them 4,000.
correct? Yes. Just like we would anybody else,
Okay.
based upon the impervious area.
But they're currently being charged that.
Yeah, so what they're being charged now is go all the way across. So there is no change, not applicable. So there
Okay.
are a number of NAs there, so that'd be no charge, no increased
Okay.
charge.
Okay.
It's really, I just can't figure out,
They will do,
these numbers don't make any sense.
right,
I mean, they're all across the board, they're all different. It just doesn't make any sense. And Hope and I tried to, yesterday we were talking about why there is such variation
mhm.
across everything. It's just like somebody made a decision years ago and said, we'll do this one on this one, and we'll charge this person this. I mean, it makes no sense.
I mean, I think
I
part of
have-
the confusion is that it says variance, but then it says NA for percentage change.
Right.
So we would think
Right.
if the NA, there's no percentage change, the variance would also be 0.
Yeah,
Right.
right, okay.
But for some
Yeah.
reason, it lists
Yeah.
a really high
Yeah.
variance here, which I think is what leads to the mayor's concern.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
the total bill is $0.
There's $0 total bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no
That's okay.
variance, correct. There is a
Yeah.
0.
So they will
Variance is
bill 0 in 2022 or not?
So in 2022, which one? So
This is Plantation condominium.
Plantation. So their charge in 2022 was the $4,630. 2025 is the column to the left, the third column.
No.
So there is no change, but I wanted to be sure that everybody knew that it was the same dollar amount.
Okay, 'cause I think the spreadsheet amount makes it look like they were 0 in
Exactly.
2022.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
spreadsheet has like some things where it says false.
I
which
get
are
it.
some are just
Right.
mistakes, and then some
That's
things which
what
is
threw
0
me
for
off.
2022,
Right.
which has some
Okay.
mistakes. So I think it's just a column needs to be moved over there.
Yeah, I'll change the column around.
Okay, no
But it
problem.
says it was updated $72.40, but the totals are the same. So how was it updated?
$72. No, for plantation, I don't, so, no, that's the ERU. ERU stayed the same. $72.40, you multiply it times $63.96, and you get the 4,630.
Okay.
So remember, one ERU is 1,500 square feet.
Mhm.
So one ERU cost is $63.96. Every house, detached, single-family house, is charged $63.96.
Can you remind me one more time, Larry, how did we get here? I think it's,
Okay, I think it's worth talking about.
Right. For
Okay, here we go.
transparency.
All right, so here's how this all happened. 2022, we were in negotiations with the apartment complex off of DeBell Street because we were going to improve DeBell Street, improve the drainage, pave the road. It was an awful condition, and also solve a 20-year problem with the School of the Deaf. They had flooding problems with a greenhouse, et cetera. So finally, City Manager Barker and then Robin Gomez said, let's move forward with it. So I went across the street to that apartment complex and got a hold of Nelkin and brought them in and had a meeting with Robin and myself and him. And we asked him to contribute $30,000 to the project because it was an old development with no detention ponds. So all the runoff comes off their rooftops, off their parking lot, goes across the Bell Street and contributed about half of the flooding problem. So after some discussion, he agreed. Then he asked the question, do I not pay a stormwater fee, Mr. Kaiser? I said, yes, you do. I said, that's for a system-wide, not a parcel-wide fee. It is across the entire city. So he said, well, I'm paying whatever the dollar amount is. I'm paying $1,000 a year, whatever the number was. So I listened to him and a couple of days later in my sleep, I'm not making this up. I said, wait a minute. He said $1,000. That doesn't sound right. So then I went into the tax system and said, he's being paid $1,000. He's charged $1,000. Something's not right. There's way more impervious surface than that.
Right.
So then I went to 2 lots on East Ponce, the Title Max and the liquor store. Both subdivided years ago, back in the 60s. Same lot size, same impervious area, same size parking. One was being billed $400, the other was being billed $100. And I said, oh, what the heck? Something's wrong. And then I went to a couple other industrial properties and determined and calculated the impervious area. And it was another 4 or 5 I looked at, all wrong. So then I went to the next city manager, went to Robin, went to Shawana, and I said, we need to proceed forward with this. We need to do an audit. We need to do something. Over that period of a year and a half, nothing happened. And so finally, when Tammy came on board, we had conversation with her, I did, and said, we need to do a random audit of about 5% of all of the parcels in the city and figure out what percentage are wrong in that 5%. Random sampling, just random. Came back, and of that 5% of all the parcels, they figured out that we should have increased billings of about $30,000 on 5% of the parcels. So that's when we went to the full audit. And that full audit came back with these numbers. So that's where we are. And this started in 2006, way back before any of us were ever around. And I think what happened is that because the city did not have the expertise at that time, DeKalb County hired a consultant, or they had the consultant work for the county and then applied the numbers to the city of Clarkston as part of a joint agreement. And somebody screwed up along the way.
Thank you for providing that information. I want to turn to the city manager, just based on what you're seeing. And one of the things that came up in terms of the retreat in addressing this. Did you have any comments as far as what you see now? Because we didn't have the numbers at that time.
Yes, ma'am. I think my concerns are still the same. I understand that we do need to make sure that we are adequately billing for stormwater. This is we all understand that these are utilities where the system needs continued maintenance. There's been some delayed maintenance because of costs and things like that. The only concern I have is that, and I was specifically looking at the apartment. So we all understand the issue that we are having with some of the apartment complexes. And again, this, what I'm about to say does not dismiss the fact that it is the apartment owners and property managers who are responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of those dwellings. But currently, we do understand that some of the apartment complexes are being fined substantial amounts. And ultimately, if an apartment complex has to pay an additional, let's say $20,000 a month, a year, on top of the taxes that they pay, on top of the fines that they are being assessed, then ultimately it is the renters who may suffer for that.
And thank you for that
Yes,
input,
ma'am.
Councilwoman Hood.
Yes, I think it would be helpful to perhaps identify and change some of the headings so that it's easier to follow across. For instance, the note about the variance, and which it would really be 0. And you may want to fine tune some of the other headings so it just is very easy to go across. Is there some way that the apartments in other development could be sorted into one group so that we could see those individually as a group?
So can you describe to me what you mean by groups and what, just give me an example of what you're referring
Well,
to.
looking at your summary sheet, that this,
Yes, okay.
the property type, other developed, and then it says apartments, other developed, commercial, institution,
Mhm,
industrial.
mhm.
And it has the breakout cost, but on this sheet,
Mhm.
is there some way that the apartments could be in one group so that we can identify?
I'm just trying to make sure I'm clear, because when you say one group, what are you?
Well, I'm not sure how this is sorted,
Mhm.
but if it could be sorted to put all of the apartments together.
Those are all the apartments
These are
on the
all
left.
the apartments.
Right.
So on this sheet.
And they're sorted by,
No, she's on other development.
and they're sorted by percentages.
Yep, there's,
Okay. Other development. Oh, other development.
I see it sorted by percentage.
Yeah, high to
right.
low in terms of change, yes. I did that way because I wanted you to
Right,
see what the worst
it's-
case scenario was.
That's exactly what we were talking about, so I understand that. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any questions about this?
So are you okay then with me setting up giving a draft of the letter to your city manager and then setting up public meeting and proceeding forward?
When does this have to be effective?
It's effective when the tax commissioner signs off on it, which is any day. Because we've already submitted the digest to them, the stormwater digest to them. And actually, we got an email today, did we not, I think, from Mr. Butler, the tax
Yesterday.
commissioner, saying, please verify these are correct.
Yeah. Okay, council, I want to make sure, because there's some wide gaps. I'm looking at, even from the apartment perspective. When you look at one, there's like $15,000 15, 10,000. If I'm looking at this correctly, 21,000.
Yes.
Do you have a suggestion?
No, I'm just,
There's no
I'm bringing,
suggestion here.
well, I'm just saying because the other piece is we can't break it down, right?
No.
No, you
No.
can't, no, they are, the complex is the complex. I,
This is not a legislative change for us. It's just
Uh-huh.
correcting
Right.
the
To just say
calculation.
yes.
So I don't see we have an alternative. We have to-
Right.
Yeah.
no. If there was an alternative, Hope and I would have offered alternatives to you, but there isn't.
The only,
Okay.
only question we have is how to outreach. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's my concern is that outreach because
Mhm.
especially these are, if you're going to the property managers, that's,
So how do you? Okay, so here's the question. Did you want individual letters stating what the increase is, or you want just a generic letter inviting them to a information meeting?
that's a day-to-day, if that's fine with the city manager in terms of how you're gonna deal with that. Especially with the amounts, I think to give you that discretion in terms of how to deal with those amounts.
I think that we can create a form, Larry. You tell me, Mr. Kaiser, I'm sorry. You tell me
Larry's fine.
if I'm wrong. Create a form within the document that has the previously billed amount, the new amount and the variance. I think the sooner we can get the cost out there, the better.
So it's individual letters, to each one of them.
Mhm. Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay.
Then I think along with that, just we discussed this at our retreat, but I think making sure they understand, hey, we're not going back
Right.
for a
That'll be in
month's
the letter.
code.
Yes.
So we're just making sure. I did have one question for our attorney. I'm sorry, I didn't catch her name earlier. So just to make sure, Ms. Thornton brought up the potential impact this could have on tenants. And my understanding is, just for the record, there's nothing we can do to sort of do this in phases. Again, I think we discussed this at the retreat. So if we wanted to sort of do phase 1 and phase 2 for the apartments, right now, from a legal standpoint, it's not advisable.
I don't have enough context to answer that today as we sit here, but I can pass that along to Stephen Quinn, who will get back to you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you for
I
bringing
think
that up.
But you're not a lawyer hat on, but I think.
No, but I've done this with 5 other utilities the last 20 years. And you don't take out subclasses. You don't take out classes of
at
the
all.
RUs. Yeah.
Nope. Okay. So with that, we consent. Consent.
I
Yeah.
brought this up at the retreat, if we have to build them is there some way that they can pay over time? And so it gets back to the same thing.
So if the city controlled the billing, and some cities do that, but there's a high cost associated with that. Usually the larger cities do that. Just take it out of the tax statement. But because we don't control it, you can't do it in phases.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, city manager.
The only alternative would be to make the ordinance effective with the new fee schedule and the new calculations, make it effective January 1 of 2026 in the new tax cycle. And that way the new amounts wouldn't be billed until 2026. You give ample opportunity for these businesses, residents, whatever, those that are affected to get the information and to be prepared for the cost. But then that puts us, what's the total variance? About $300,000 that the city again is losing on a aging stormwater system, right? So if the digest information has already been sent to the county, we are within. I mean, we get the preliminary digest. We get that on Thursday of this week, right? And so the only other alternative is just to be as aggressive as we can in our approach to notify. And I think making the costs available as early as this first notice is the clear option, I think.
Okay, so my other concern for you
Mhm.
is the bandwidth to be able to do that.
Will we have will we have some support in your
Yes,
offices to
yes,
get that
absolutely.
information?
Yes, yes, yes. I'll do the form, individual letters,
Mhm.
and just have to have, so the next question is, who signs it?
That is an awesome way to welcome a new city manager, Larry. I just want you to know.
I can sign it. So really, somebody has to sign it, obviously. So, I mean, it'll be a very nice letter, Miss Mayor.
I know.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Maybe lies the crown.
So yes, you'll get support from the
Get a
office
stamp.
and I'll draft it, but I need to know who's going to sign it.
Yes, we gotta do it. Fun sitting in the middle, huh?
I will.
So the city engineer, the de facto city engineer can do it and copy you
Okay.
and copy the city manager. I've done that before, some
Okay.
things.
That sounds
All
good
right,
to me.
lay the blame on us.
Thank you. Appreciate you. So with that, we're gonna proceed. We're gonna have them to do the letter and go from there. Okay? Any comments from the public? Got all about. Can't forget the public on this one. Can't forget the public. Okay, with that, we'll proceed with consent or, yeah, consent? Consent, okay. All right, thank you for that very lively discussion. Next, we'll have E, which is to discuss an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2025 general fund budget of, appropriating the amount in the expenditures expenses as amended, adopting the items or revenue anticipation as amended, and prohibiting expenditures or expenses from exceeding the actual funding available and for other purposes. 736 Park North Security First Protective Services. City Manager Miller Thornton.
Yes, ma'am. We have identified, of course, the need, and this was an initial expectation in the project cost for 736 Park North, which is the cost for security services, systems, and installation over at 736. We have determined that the installation requires complete rewiring and installation of new equipment in the space. And so the cost has been presented to us in the amount of $23,000. It's my understanding that an initial estimation of $25,000 was calculated at the beginning of the project. What we found is that in the interim, in the changeover from years, the budget allocation, which was approved in 2024, is not included in the 2025 year. So if let me give a little bit of context on governmental accounting. So at the end of the budget cycle, all allocations go back to zero, and anything that we did not reappropriate anything that we did not spend in a project that goes over into a new year needs to be reappropriated for the 2025 year, right? And so we have identified this cost, and I will tell you that we are working on project costs for the full of the project, and any cost that we would incur in 2025 will also come to council as a budget amendment, which is simply a rollover from 2024.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
even though this is the under 20, it's under 25, we appreciate you bringing this before us so that we could see what this looks like.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions from the council?
Just one, so just to make sure I understand, so we're saying that this is money that's there, we just didn't actually put it in the spreadsheet, and it needs to be put in the spreadsheet in order for you to spend it. Is that?
Well, it needs to be reappropriated for the 2025 budget. So you would have approved project costs back in 2024, and there are cost budget allocations in the 2024 budget document from what I can tell, right? So at the end of the 2024 year, any invoices that had not been, any costs that had not been incurred in the project actually needed to be reappropriated in 2025. That was not the case for this specific cost.
Gotcha. So in layman's terms, essentially, the money's in the bank. We just didn't put it in the budget
That's correct.
for this year. Gotcha.
Yes.
All right, any questions? Okay. Any from the public? Can this be consent? Okay, consent, all right. Then we'll move to item F, which is to discuss the resolution declaring support for the preservation of the federal tax exempt of bonds, municipal bonds. City Manager Miller Thorne.
Yes, ma'am. So there was some talk in the legislature about federal government taking away taking away tax exempt status for municipal bonds. And so the Federal Policy Council of GMA and some of the other municipal organizations encourage cities to provide a resolution to its delegation, asking that our delegations protect the municipal, protect the tax exempt status of municipal bonds. I know that we've gone through the legislative session already, but we do want to present to our legislators that we are in support of the continuance of tax exempt status. And just to give a little bit of context, if the city were to issue a $25 million bond without tax exemption, we would pay an additional $7 million on the issuance. So, a lot of projects get to be done based on tax exempt status, and we want to keep that in line.
All right. And so we'll have that, the resolution, right? Okay.
You
All
have a
right.
copy of it.
Got it. Okay. Any questions? And so, May 7th, I encourage our council members to come to the DMA, where we'll have the CAB delegation there, so we can also reinforce this piece as well with them. So with that, any questions from the public? Hearing none. Public. Okay. Consent? Consent, okay. And then we'll go to G, which is to discuss the renewal of the insurance for Georgia Interlocal Risk Management Agency. City Manager Miller Thorne.
Yes, ma'am. The city's property and liability insurance is set to renew May 1. And so we were a little bit behind in getting the renewal terms for the upcoming term. We have received those. And as presented, the total cost for renewal is $185,994. That includes a $10,858 renewal credit that's provided to the cities through the GARMA plan. As budgeted, the city budgeted $171,000 toward insurance. So after approval of the proposal, along with any other budget amendments that I need to present to council, I will present that in the subsequent month, which would be May work session, right? But because the renewal is due as of Thursday, I wanted to go ahead and get the proposal in front of council. It requires you all's approval to accept the proposal. I did talk with GARMA, and they will give us an automatic renewal of our current terms, but we completed the new applications, and these were the costs that were presented to us.
All right. Councilman
So I
Carroll.
guess, does this require a vote from the council to approve it? Because we don't vote at work sessions.
I know you do not, but if I can get consent, then we can ratify during the next meeting. This is something that we, of course, cannot go without, and it has been
Right, I know we
budgeted.
have to do it.
Yeah, but at least I can let GARMA know ahead of Thursday that we have at least gained the consent of this item to go to to the consent agenda.
Okay, and I see our attorney. You have any comments?
I think you're correct. If this is what needs to be done, you can say consent and ratify at the next meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Any questions from the council?
No police animal mortality? No police animal mortality?
No, please. We got rid of it. We got the donuts, not here. Any from the public? Okay. Consent? Consent. Okay, we have consent.
Listen, thank you.
All right. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion. I
Yes.
move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed, meeting adjourned. See you next Tuesday.